All right, everybody, welcome back to the channel. It's Matty here from Chill TCG. So today we got another future format deck video that we're going to be taking a look at today. We did both Urshifus a couple weeks ago, both Urshifu Vmaxes, which are coming out in Battle Styles, the new set coming out in March. Today we have something a little bit different. Well, it's the same type of video, but we have a different deck. And today we're actually taking a look at Corviknight Vmax, which is a super cool new Metal type Vmax Pokemon, which is coming out in Battle Styles. Other than the Urshifus, it's definitely my favorite VMAX that is coming out. So I'm excited to take a look at this deck list. But before we get into it, though, I want to let you guys know to go check out CardCavernTradingCards.com. They're the sponsor for Chill Series and Chill TCG, and you can use the code ChillTCG at checkout to get 5% off your entire order. You can get codes there. You can get any sort of online codes or cards in general for a variety of trading card games. So if you're watching this, go check them out. Link will be down in the description below. However, though, we're gonna get right into it. So here it is. This is our Corviknight Vmax deck. Now, first, when you look at this, there'll be a lot of similarities to other metal decks that you've seen. One thing that probably a lot of you guys are noticing is this looks a lot like just sort of a normal Lucario and Melmetal deck. And there's a reason for that. Corviknight Vmax is sort of built around being very tanky, living for a long time. It's got a lot of HP, but we incorporate some new cards to really give this deck an opportunity to just hopefully just never get knocked out, right? The whole point is to live as long as possible while consistently hitting for actually a decent amount of damage. So the first card we're going to take a look at here, not in any, I guess, particular order. We're going to just take a look at Corviknight V before Corviknight Vmax. Now, Corviknight V is pretty cool. Metal-type Pokemon. It's got a retreat cost of 210 HP. It is a basic Pokemon, of course. It's not super important. We're not going to cover it too long. We're just playing this card, of course, to get into the VMAX, like most Pokemon V. But that first attack, Clutch, for 1 metal. The defending Pokemon cannot retreat during your next turn. Doesn't do any damage or anything. The next one, 2 metal and a colorless Sky Hurricane does 190. And you can't use your Hurricane during your next turn. So 190 for 3. It is what it is. I mean, you can get this off pretty easily with Metal Saucers and whatnot. 190, it's not terrible. But for the most part, right, we're not really going to be wanting to attack with Corviknight V. However, Corviknight Vmax is extremely awesome. So let's take a look at Corviknight Vmax here. Corviknight Vmax is actually crazy. It's got 320 HP. It is a metal type. Its retreat cost is free. It's got a free retreat. Of course, it is weak to fire like all metal types are these days, which is totally fine. Don't worry about it. It's not a big deal. We are running coding energies. Corviknight Vmax, it just has 1 attack, but the ability is super cool. So Luster Body, you prevent all effects of your opponent's abilities done to this Pokemon. So, realistically, you can't poison this thing. You really can't do anything to Corviknight except just sort of attack it. So prevent all effects of your opponent's abilities done to this Pokemon. So any Pokemon with abilities, they're not going to work with Corviknight. You can't poison it with Slowbro. You can't let's say you can't Giratina it. You can't Zigzagoon it. It really kind of solidifies the tankiness here of Corviknight. And realistically, it's a very good card. That 1 attack that it has is actually super impressive. So for 2 metal and a colorless, Gmax Hurricane's 240 damage, and it cannot use Gmax Hurricane during your next turn. Now, this is actually a really great attack. 240 for 3 energies is not a big deal at all. It's pretty much extremely similar to Zacian's attack, except it does take a colorless energy and does 1 extra damage. But again, you can't use it during your next turn. You're going to have to double switch out if you're going to want to attack it multiple times in a row with Corviknight Vmax. However, you have a free retreat cost, so that is much more easier to do than Zacian. That means you don't really need Air Balloon to get that double switching out. We are running 4 switch in the deck, but yeah, free retreat. It's absolutely phenomenal. So Corviknight Vmax is what the centerpiece is of this deck. It's going to be our main attacker, our main sort of bulk Pokemon here. But for the most part, right, we're gonna want him to be, we're gonna want to live for as long as possible. And we have a few ways to do that, which we'll cover a little bit later in the deck. But just consistently hitting for 240 or 2-shotting anything in the format, even if they Malalana. This attack, I think, is just very impressive. So those are our main Pokemon. That's what the deck is based around. It's kind of one-dimensional, right? There's not too much crazy about Corviknight Vmax. You might thinking what's the big deal here? Why is Corviknight Vmax so crazy? Realistically, the only thing that really sets this thing apart, other than having a very nice ability and a consistent attack there for 3 metal, it's got a free retreat cost, which is something that you just can't say about any other Vmax Pokemon right now. And it actually gives us a huge advantage with some of our other cards, and we'll take a look at that in just a bit. And this advantage actually, it directly correlates with our other 2-2 lineup here that we are running, which is Bronzor and Bronzong. Now, these are also new Pokemon coming out in battle styles. Just basic Pokemon here, single prize Pokemon. Bronzong, or Bronzor rather, 60 HP. You can do Ram for 30 damage. Metal and a colorless, don't worry about that. We're playing it to evolve into Bronzong. Bronzong is actually super cool, so it's got 110 HP, retreat cost of 3, that's kind of high. However, we're playing it for the ability. It does have that attack, metal, colorless, and headbutt, 70 damage. Don't worry about it, we're never going to use that attack. We play it for this ability, and we're going to keep this thing on our bench. The ability is Metal Trans, so as often as you would like during your turn, you may move a metal energy from one of your Pokemon to another one of your Pokemon. This is absolutely crazy. This is literally ridiculous. This means that you can set up 2 Corviknight and hit every turn pretty much, because you have free retreat. You can just attack with both Corviknight every turn, switching in and out for only 3 energies, because you can just move them back and forth if you do have Bronzong on your bench. This also is going to work really well with Zacian. This works well with Luke Metal. If you're setting up energies on Luke Metal or Zacian, you can move them over to Corviknight, and you can do anything you want with your energies, and it just sort of makes everything much more manageable, right? Being able to set up Pokemon in one turn without even attaching energy is absolutely crazy. If you already have the energy attached, of course. Bronzong, I think, is going to see a lot of play in just a wide variety of metal decks. Of course, I think that it does go very well with Corviknight. However, in this deck, it's going to be extremely important. I guess you could run Corviknight without Bronzong, and you can run Bronzong without Corviknight. However, I thought that this deck would be cool to incorporate both of the new sort of cards that definitely go together very, very well. So like I said, Corviknight has free retreat. The idea is you attack with Corviknight, you get 320 HP, you're not getting one-shot it. We have Coating Energy to get rid of the... we have Coating Energy to, of course, get rid of your weakness. Giratina can't, discard your energies. Your Coating Energies, they're going to have to run Hammers. Well, other decks aren't running Hammers for the most part. So realistically, you slap that Coating Energy onto Corviknight Vmax, and you are just all set. It's most likely not getting knocked off unless they hit you with Hammers or something, which they most likely won't do, right, in Welder decks. So, and like I said, free retreat, so you just attack, free retreat out, switch the energies over with Bronzong to a new Corviknight or Zacian, whatever it might be, and then you just attack again and repeat, rinse, repeat, and you most likely will be living for a very long time. And this also goes very well with Cheryl, and we'll talk about Cheryl in a little bit. But the rest of the cards are kind of things that are, of course, not very new. We are running Luke Metal. Luke Metal is just really good. In this deck, particularly, it's not a card that we always want to be using. However, in games where we do get that Luke Metal off, which is minus 30 damage, this means potentially we're just living for like 3 or 4 turns, which is wild. We have Metal Goggles as well to reduce damage again by 30. Even though you can't get pinged by Zigzagoon, or really anything that has an ability, right, that can put damage on your Corviknights, Metal Goggles is just going to be good to reduce that damage. So 320 HP, minus 60 damage every turn. You free retreat. We have Cheryl. It's this deck is going to be very hard to deal with if it gets rolling. So we run 1 Luke Metal. It's not something we particularly always will need to use, but if we can get it, used, it's going to be extremely useful. Also, the GX attack is really good to discard energies as well. So I think it just goes really well with this deck. Of course, we do have 2 Zacians. Mainly here, of course, the ability is extremely useful. However, the attack can be really useful as well. Basically, it's the same attack as Corviknight Vmax, but it's on a basic Pokemon. So if you don't really have the time to, set up a second Corviknight Vmax, like evolve into it, I guess we can just play Zacian and do 230 instead of 240, which I think should be two-shotting anything in the game right now, even after Malawana anyway, right? So Zacian, it's going to be extremely useful. The ability's great. It's just the best. It's the best basic 2-prize attacking Pokemon in the game, and most definitely the best metal type 2-prize attacking Pokemon in the game. So I think these things go hand in hand pretty well. 2 Zacian, it just makes sense. I think you could run Zamazenta in this deck list, but we are not running Zamazenta. Again, it could be good, but for the most part, I didn't find it entirely necessary. And then, of course, we're running 1 Eldegoss, 1 Crobat, 1 Dedenne. They're there if we need it. Eldegoss is going to be really good to find those Cheryls, pull them out of the discard pile, or maybe one of our boss. We're running 3 boss, but you might want to pull one out of your discard pile as well. Crobat and Dedenne just to dig through your deck if you need to. Again, we're probably not going to want to put these down on our bench, but again, if they're there if we need them, right, to dig, maybe for that last boss for game or something like that, right? They're just there to those 3 cards are there. Hopefully, right, we don't start with them. They're there hopefully for sort of the late game, and yeah, they're there if we need them, and I suppose, and they're too useful, I think, not to have them in this deck. So a pretty wide variety of Pokemon in the deck, and also a pretty decent amount of Pokemon. Plenty of basics, whether you're starting with your 3 Corviknight Vs, maybe your Bronzong, or sorry, your Bronzor, Luke Metal, Zacian. The majority of your deck are cards that you really don't mind starting with. Yeah, I guess you can start with Eldegoss, Crobat, or Dedenne in the active spot. If you do, it's not a big deal. We are running 4 switch. Plenty of ways to just attach and retreat out anyway, so it shouldn't be the end of the world. I think the Pokemon lineup here is very smart. And definitely very good. So also big shout out to Zach Lesage, one of the best players in the world, for helping me with this list as well. Moving on to our trainer cards. So of course we're running 4 switch. We do have free retreat. However, you can only retreat once during your turn. So yes, Corviknight can free retreat into another Corviknight, but if we're in a position where we want to double switch out, if we only have one Corviknight out there, or if we're starting with like a Luke Metal up there or Zacian in the active spot, whatever it might be, we have cards that don't have free retreat, right? So 4 switch, it just makes a lot of sense. We're going to be switching out a lot in this deck. Yeah, I think that 4 switch makes total sense. Now at a Pokemon search, we're running 4 quick balls and we're running 3 Pokecoms. 4 quick balls, of course, we get tons of basics. We're going to want to find our basic Pokemon. Of course, all the time. Discarding cards, from our hand isn't bad at all. We can discard those metal energies and then, metal saucer them onto our bench metal Pokemon. So quick ball, definitely very good. And then we also have Pokemon communications. We have a wide variety of different Pokemon. We have a total of 5 evolution Pokemon in the deck, and Pokecom is going to be our main way of searching those out, as opposed to drawing into them, right? So 7 cards in total to search out our Pokemon. I think that's more than enough. We have plenty of ways to look through our deck. We have plenty of Pokemon just to draw into them as well. So I think that this Pokemon. This count of Pokemon search cards is ideal. I think it's totally fine. I don't think you really need Evo Incense. I think Pokecom is just a better option right now because you can search for any card in your deck as long as you just switch it out with a Pokemon in your hand, as opposed to really only being able to search out evolution Pokemon. So I think Com is just a bit better. 4 Metal Saucers, of course, it's a metal deck. Why wouldn't you run 4 Metal Saucer? It's like one of the best cards in the game. Makes metal decks that much more viable, and it's no different with this deck. 2 Metal Goggles, like I said earlier, it's really just there to reduce the damage. It's not necessarily going to change much when it comes to like that secondary effect of Metal Goggles where your opponent can't put damage counters on. Yeah, that should matter on Corviknight Vmax. However, it's going to be good just to maybe put on that Zacian so it can live a little bit. Put that onto Corviknight Vmax, make it that much more bulkier. And maybe you live 2 or 3 turns with Corviknight Vmax. You never know. I think if we do the math here, like if they want to 2-shot you, realistically they would have to hit you for what? So what is it? 180, right? 180 times 2 is 320. However, minus 60 to their damage, they would have to hit you for 240 twice. And that is if we're not actually healing with Cheryl, right? So 240 twice is the only way that you can really 2-shot KO Corviknight. And Zacian doesn't do 230. So the only thing that's really 2-shot KOing you is maybe like Eternatus, like other VMAX Pokemon right now in the format, or like Centiskorch, things that are hitting over 240, and there's not that much of them, right? So 240 to 2-hit KO you was actually very impressive, and that's if you get the Luke Metal off and the goggles. But going off on a tangent anyway on some math stuff, not super important. Metal Goggles, it's just good in this deck. It's not entirely necessary, but we might as well run them. We got 1 Swell in here as well, because like why not? You know what I'm saying? Metal decks really shouldn't matter too much. I guess we just sort of choose not to play Luke Metal or Zacian if we don't have to. And metal decks really shouldn't be that big of an issue. We're going to find our coding energies. But, Chaotic Swell, it's just, this deck doesn't really have any stadium that benefits it incredibly. So for that reason, I think just running 1 Chaotic Swell is good. It can kind of slow our opponent down and stop them from using stadiums for, at least a short period of time. So yeah, that's we're just running that 1 Chaotic Swell. And then we have onto our supporters. We got 4 Marnie. We got 4 Research. So again, those are our draw supporters. We are running Dedenne, Eldegoss, Crobat, but for the most part, right, we're probably going to be wanting to use those supporters every turn. They're the best draw supporters in the game, so why not run a 4 count of them? It just makes total sense. We're running 3 Boss as well. We run 3 Boss because, no matter what deck you're playing, no matter what matchup you're playing, for the most part, a lot of the time, your win condition is going to come down to if you have Boss's orders in hand. Can you gus something up from the bench and take it for 2 or 3 prizes? That's really just going to be what wins you the game. So if you're my money, you might as well play 3 Boss's orders. Like, it just makes sense to me. We have Eldegoss to find it, if we need it as well, so we don't really need to run 4. And we can also afford to discard 1 or 2 of these throughout the game as well, because we do have Eldegoss, and Eldegoss is much more searchable than Boss, of course. Yeah, I think 3 Boss is totally appropriate. It's totally fine. I don't think that this deck necessarily relies on Boss, like things like ADP, so 3 Boss's orders makes total sense. Okay, so next up we have Cheryl. Cheryl is extremely cool. I'm going to scroll down here so I can read it, make sure I don't get it wrong. Cheryl is a new supporter card that is coming in Battle Styles, and it goes absolutely perfectly with Corviknight Vmax. Now, Cheryl, it reads, heal all damage from each of your evolution Pokemon. Each of your evolution Pokemon, then discard all energy attached to the Pokemon that you healed this way. Now, this means that potentially, right, you could heal all damage from both of your Corviknight Vmaxes or even 3 Corviknight Vmaxes, and you won't actually have to discard those energies because you can move the energy off your Corviknight Vmaxes onto your Bronzor and then move them back after you played Cheryl. So it's an incredible combo. It's going to make Corviknight Vmax be incredibly difficult to KO if you're able to get this combo off, and it's really not that difficult, to be honest. Like, you just sort of get a Bronzong on your bench, and then at some point you draw into Cheryl, and you're kind of just chilling. Marnie's going to probably affect this deck a little bit, of course, like it does most setup decks, but Cheryl, it's super, 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 super cool. We're only running 2 in the deck. We run 2 in the deck because it's not something we're probably going to want to use more than twice in a game, and even if we have problems finding that second one, we have Eldegoss to search it out. Yeah, man, I think that Corviknight and Bronzong, they go together like bread and butter, like PB&J or whatever. I don't know, whatever the saying might be. But Cheryl also fits in there extremely well. The fact that Corviknight has free retreat, the fact that, Cheryl, we have Bronzor to move the energies. We have Cheryl to heal all damage from Corviknight. We have plenty of ways to make Corviknight that much more tankier with Coding Energy, Goggles, Luke Metal. This deck is looking to be probably the best new sort of tank deck. Living for an extremely long amount of time, being extremely difficult to KO, and just realistically being super consistent with its damage output as well as its survivability, I guess would be the term for this deck. So the combo, that's the combo, right? You have Corviknight, Bronzong, Cheryl. Like, that's the dream combo, and we have all this stuff needed to put into the metal deck, into a metal deck to make it that much more viable. So yeah, that's the supporter lineup, and then of course we got the 4 Coding Energies with 9 metals. That seems to be sort of the Luke Metal lineup these days. I guess you could maybe run 1 less Coding and then like 1 more basic. Again, you would have a little bit more synergy with Zacian's ability, as well as like the Metal Saucer. But for the most part, I think that Coding Energy is really going to be extremely important for this list, because we're going to want to put those on our Corviknights, especially when we hit Welder decks. One thing that I want to mention is, like, especially after rotation, like if Welder doesn't get a reprint, or if something like that, doesn't get included after rotation for fire type decks, then I don't know what's going to be able to really effectively, have a good matchup against Corviknight. And for the most part, I think that this deck is just crazy. I think that once it gets a bit more well refined, once people find out, the best way to consistently get this combo and play this deck, it's going to be extremely, extremely viable. And I highly suggest, it's kind of a sleeper. Like, I don't think many people really know too much about Corviknight. And this deck isn't something that I think a lot of people are talking about. So if you clicked on this video and you were just interested, man, congratulations for just tuning in and discovering this absurdly busted deck. I'm sure I'm not the first person to come up with this combo, and I won't be the last, but this is definitely a really cool list, and I wanted to share it with you guys because Battle Styles is coming out soon, and it's definitely super, super cool. That's going to wrap it up for the video, guys. So first of all, thank you so much for watching. I've been Maddie from Chill TCG. This has been another future format deck list video. Thank you guys just so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Subscribe to the channel if you enjoy the content, if you want to get notified for future content. Like the video, support the algorithm, comment below. What do you think of this deck list? How would you run it? What other cards would you put in here? How would you change this list? I'm always interested to hear you guys' input. And also, before we go, Chill Series tournaments, they're every Wednesday. Definitely go play in them Wednesday at 6 p.m. They're super fun PTCGO tournaments. I host them every week. We have a great turnout. It's just super fun. And link to register and to play in all those tournaments will be down below as well. So that's going to wrap it up for me, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. And, I'll see you guys next time.